Sounds just the same to me. Pop looked doubtfully at his wife. He wanted to believe her, but didn't trust himself to do so. It seemed no time at all since Rita herself was a baby, a pale-skinned little beauty with deep red hair. Now here she was, having her own third child. Where had all those years gone?
"Ma'am, have you got any more hot water down there?"
Came a voice from the top of the stairs. "I'll bring it right up, Sarah, love." Dolly emptied the rest of the water from the kettle into a large enamel jug and then set another lot to boil just in case. "Pop, why don't you fill the biggest pan from the tap and put that on to heat up as well?" She bustled to the door, all anxiety gone now that there was something useful to do. Pop looked around uncertainly. They'd lived in this house for almost all of their married lives, and yet he still wasn't sure where all the utensils in the kitchen were kept. That was Dolly's territory. Still, this was no time to complain. He opened every cupboard door until he found the pan he hoped she meant. Meanwhile, Dolly raced up the stairs as quickly as she could, belying her 50-something years, but careful not to spill a drop of water. "Here you are, love." She handed the battered jug to her youngest daughter, who swiftly turned back to the bedroom and the screams. If anyone had told Dolly at the beginning of the war that just a few years later young Sarah would be supervising the birth of Rita's child, she would have laughed them to the other side of the Mersey. But now she could think of no better person. Sarah might be only 19, but she'd started her nurse's training with the Red Cross as soon as she could, and had been thrown in at the deep end, tending injuries during the bombings, coping with all manner of indescribable horrors, as well as delivering babies in the most unlikely places, ruined buildings, air raid shelters, and once in the middle of a deserted street. Overseeing a birth in the comfort of her own bedroom, with her patient and experienced mother who just happened to be a senior nurse, with the support of their own experienced mother, and endless supplies of hot water and all the necessities, was a comparative luxury. Rita could have chosen to give birth in her own bedroom, above the shop just across the road from her childhood home, but Sarah had persuaded her to cross the narrow alleyway that separated the two buildings and have the baby here. That way the shop could stay open, and their sister-in-law, Violet, could look after it, along with Ruby. Ruby was a strange young woman who scared easily and was, they all agreed, unlikely to cope with the grim reality of childbirth at such close range. She was better than she had been back when Rita had first brought her there to live, but her neglectful childhood had ill-prepared her for the world at large, let alone a world at war. She was wonderful with children, though, adoring Rita's first two, Michael and Megan, and also little George, the toddler son of Dolly and Pop's middle daughter, Nancy. Dolly and Sarah looked at Rita now, as she lay way-faced on the old off-white bed linen, her usually lustrous red hair dark with sweat, her face screwed up with effort, but her eyes were bright.
"It's coming," she gasped. "I remember this bit. Mum, hold my hand, will you? Help me through these last few pushes."
Dolly immediately knelt down beside her and took her damp hand, just as another wave of contraction and pain broke, and Rita's face contorted as she let out a loud scream. Sarah stood at the bottom of the bed, her eyes never leaving her patient.
"Come on, Rita, that's right. You're almost there. One more push could do it."
Rita lay back exhausted, drawing in air in painful gulps.
"It's taking ages, though. Is everything all right? You'd tell me if it wasn't, wouldn't you, Sarah?"
"Everything is just right." Sarah spoke with authority for all her young age.
"It's been pretty quick, actually, Rita. It just feels like a long time, but it really isn't."
Her eyes narrowed a little as they assessed her big sister, registering that she was tired, but not dangerously so, and that the next contraction seemed to be building.
"Right, here we go. Give me a big, big push and—"
Rita let out a piercing cry and then fell back against the pillow, but it had done the trick. As her own cry faded away, it was replaced by a higher, more penetrating one, the unmistakable sound of a newborn child.
"Rita, she's here, she's here. It's a girl."
Sarah struggled to remain professional as she picked up her niece and wrapped her carefully in a towel, automatically check.